Hi, my name's John Cordy, and if you spend any more time watching that television, your eyes will turn triangle, obviously. So today I wanted to do a video about a thing that many people have asked me about in the Iridium kind of world. I guess it's a competitor of the Iridium, and it's the Simplifier. So if you're not aware of what this is, I guess it's another small box kind of device that can sit at the end of a pedal board and does the AC30, Marshall and Fender Deluxe Verb type thing, or American voiced stuff. Before I go any further, I might as well do some playing with it. So this is in the AC30 setting. So bright and sparkly. Here's the American setting on 606s. And the Marshall with KT88. It's got quite a volume boost, but so if you were just using the unit by itself, I mean, this is a question I've answered on the Iridium. Does it necessarily inspire you massively? To me, it's quite a dry sounding thing. It's got a quick response, which might be a good thing. But I also feel like it's got a bit of a... It doesn't really have any sponginess or chewiness to it. Now, I don't know if that's an analog thing or whether that's a valve thing, but I know that on the Helix and on the Iridium I can get that chewy kind of feel, and on this I can't. So whether digital or not analog, to me probably seems irrelevant in that sense, because I just can't do it on this. One of the really cool things about it is that it's got an effects loop, which is one of those things that I guess the Iridium potentially is missing. I've just put a J-Rocket Mr. Moto in the loop, which is a tremolo and reverb. So one of the things that I've sort of noticed is that it's quite easy to overdrive the effects loop, it seems to be, so you get this thing going on. Which is not something I've noticed at all with the Iridium or any other device. So I guess maybe that's a gain. When you get the gain up a certain level, you start to... But that's, to me, that doesn't sound like doesn't sound like what should be happening, so that's a bit of a negative for me. So that's a thing that I've noticed is happening, and I did think I was using a cheaper delay, but this is a J-Rocket Mr. Moto reverb and tremolo, and it's still doing it, so... So I guess the volume and gain is not usable all the way necessarily if you've got stuff in the effects loop, because if that's happening, that's definitely not what you're going to want to happen, right? So the things that I like about it, the effects loop would be good if it was done right. The cabs, I like having stereo cabs, so you've got like you can have a 2x12, a 4x12, or 1x12, but you can also have different ones for left and right. So that's kind of a cool feature. And then also I like that you've got control of the presence and resonance of the cabinet. So to me that's potentially just as useful as being able to load IRs, particularly if you're not a person who wants to do the whole tweaking thing. So on paper the Simplifier would be really good, I think. You see that? Okay, see it. Just dropped everything. Cool. So while on paper, I think the Simplifier is a super cool idea, and it's great to have something that's that small and compact, and it's got XLR outs again, which is one of those things that the Iridium doesn't have. The actual sound of the unit to me is not something that is inspiring particularly, and like I say, the overdriving of the effects loop is a real issue. You know, I don't have the volume and gain up crazy here, and I'm only playing through Lola Dirty Blondes, which are pretty low output pickups, and they're single coil. So for me that's not great. I bought it specifically because people asked me my opinion on it. I reached out to DSM and Humboldt and just introduced myself and said that I was interested in doing some demos, but I've bought one in the end anyway. I don't think I'll be keeping it, and yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be negative specifically about stuff, but I do want to be honest if I bother to buy a thing and put it in front of you. I think quite a lot of the YouTube stuff can be a little bit maybe redundant if people aren't actually telling you what they genuinely think of the thing. You know, if I was being paid to demo this, would I tell you all of this? Probably not. Get a paid demo again. But so this is what I've found with the unit. A great idea on paper. Having an effects loop on the Iridium style unit would be great, but when it comes down to it, I think it's a little bit lacking in bass, maybe a little bit of a kind of flat response, and it doesn't really have that kind of chew that I think is what I liked about the Iridium. And certainly the Vox doesn't sound as much like a Vox to me as the Iridium does. So I think maybe the Iridium is kind of strong competition, because if you know the channel, I put it up against sort of Kemper, HX Stomp, and a real Vox, and I found that it really did keep up with all of those, and perhaps even sounded better to some people. The Simplifier for me is not in that same league. So whilst I'd like to say to you that you could save £100 or so on the price of an Iridium and get something with extra features and an effects loop and XLR outs, and that it would also compete sonically with an Iridium, I'd like to be able to tell you that, but for me it's not the case. So that's my honest review of the Simplifier. I'm going to include some of the playing that I've done with it, the normal sort of stuff, using my favourite pedals with it, and you can see what happened. I don't think it's a bad sounding unit. I think that overdriving the effects loop is certainly an issue, but is that going to make me not want to replace my Iridium that is currently broken? Frankly, no. So yeah, that's my review of the Simplifier. Hopefully it's not just negative for the sake of being negative. And the spirit that I'm trying to deliver this kind of review is one, hopefully, that comes across as well-meaning. That the idea is that, I've done loads of stuff with the Strymon Iridium, all of it unpaid. But I guess it looks like I'm advocating for that pedal, so I wanted to try out the competition for sure. I'm planning, hopefully, to try out something by Amplifier, the Amplifier, or maybe the Amplifier box, because that's kind of the same sort of area, and maybe I'll be able to report positively. I'd have no issue if I found something that I thought sounded better than or competed with the Iridium with bringing that to you, but for me this doesn't. So if this was useful at all, if you could like and leave a comment. If you like this sort of review, and it's, I guess, an actual review, let me know. I don't want to necessarily just chuck products in front of your face for the sake of it. But if I am going to, try out a thing that is of genuine interest to me, like the Simplifier, I think maybe it makes sense for me to bring it to the channel and say this is what I thought of it, and this is why A, I am keeping it, or B, I'm not keeping it. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. If you got anything useful out of this, there's a buy me a coffee link, but only use that if you like what I do, you got something useful out of the video and you want me to carry on making stuff. If you can't afford to, don't do it, but you could just like and subscribe and that would be helpful too. And now here's a load more playing clips with it and the sounds that I could get out of this Simplifier. But yeah, I'm not going to be keeping it. Thank you for watching.